Welcome to VASL and Stu's ASL Game of the Replay Dead of Winter. We have 3 logs that were submitted. We're going to go over the logs. We're going to see the different types of strategies that players use within the logs. Look at the strategies and see how well they fared, see how well they failed, and just go with the log and see decisions they were making, route paths they were taking, things like that, and checking out their setup to see what works well and see what didn't work so well. But the option here is not to tell you whether or not they played right or wrong. That's beside the point. They played with using their game plan, and their game plan, we don't want to change that. The only thing we want to do is look at the game plan and comment on the game plan saying, okay, if you're going to have a frontal attack, let's maximize the frontal attack. What things went wrong with your frontal attack? What things went right with your frontal attack? And things like that. And then just go with that. We're not going to change the play. Hey, you set them up there. That's completely screwed up. That's wrong. That's not the purpose of the ASL Game of the Month replay analysis. It's not the purpose. The purpose is to generate discussion on ASL gameplay, which brings us to greater understanding of the rules, greater understanding of the concepts and the tactics used in the rules, because there's not one rule in here that describes tactics. Sorry to say, out of a 200-page rulebook, there's nothing in there with tactics. They're only rules. It's a reference manual only. The tactics and the use of the rules comes during gameplay. That's why we're here, to go over that aspect of the rules. We're going to be discussing rules. Some of the rules we discuss will be probably wrong at times. Thus, the more people we have here, the better the discussions will become, as you would presume. So anyway, what we do have is we have the Dead of Winter is the first game, of course. So the map is right here, right next to me. And so anyway, what we're going to do is, for next month, Game of the Month is December. Well, this month, December, is Monastir Gap. It's a Fierce Fireman number 7. The file, the scenario, is on the ASL SK Discord server. My Discord server, not the ASL Central. So if you go to Central, you're going to the wrong place. ASL Skills, ASL SK server. The link is down below. Look in there. ASL Game of the Month files. You will find it there. Download it, play it, submit your log file to ASL Scenario Archive, to aslplayers.net, and get the log files online so we can analyze them together and then grow a library of files. It's a great resource that everyone's ignoring. Don't know why. There's easily 700 to 800 games that have been played this year that could have all been logged and uploaded to various databases and used for a great resource that has been completely ignored, to be honest with you. So it's just a resource that you can use and analyze anyone games play and just look at how other people play the game. If you're new to the game, if you're coming back to the game, if you are playing the game normally, you can always look to see what other people are playing, especially if it's a scenario you have coming up. If you've got like some PTO game, if you've got Tatsugeki coming up and you've never played it before, and if people create their VASL logs and store them on the archive or the players.net, aslplayers.net, Neil Euland's site, then you can have a database of information at your fingertips. So you'll see how the scenario flows, you see how different people set up, and you'll see the results of those different setups and attacks. It's straightforward, as simple as that. And so creating log files is real simple. It's brainless, to be honest with you, regardless. So anyway, let's get to the discussion. We had a number of people, half a dozen people show up. So they came and went as they pleased because it was about 2 hours. So let me know if the time isn't appropriate. 10 a.m. Saturdays. I wanted to do 10 a.m. on Saturdays to allow the European players to get online. If they don't look at Facebook, if they don't look at anything like that, well, I don't have connections with the European players. So that's the whole point of the Saturday morning time, is to allow other players from different parts of the world to also participate. We have a number of Eastern Standard Time players jump in. We had a Hawaiian player jump in. So it just makes the time available to the more players, the merrier. So that's all there is to it. Let's get to it. Oh yeah, one more thing. Steve Deathlifson said that when you order the Heated Battle products, whether it be Fierce Fireman or whatever, based on the Game of the Month play, he'll give you a discount on his Heated Battle products that he has available for you. So order what you want from him, get those Christmas orders in early, and get some ASL products with a discount. So you can't go wrong with that. I thank Steve for allowing us to use Monster Hill for a free download and a play. You know, at least give him a thumbs up, send him a note, send him an email, say, hey, thanks a lot for giving us this free scenario that we can use in Game of the Month. Even if you don't purchase anything from him, give him a thumbs up and just send him a good note. Just a quick email, no big deal. Go to Heated Battle, do a contact site, let him know you appreciate that part of him contributing to the community. All right, thanks a lot, Steve. Thanks for your help.
Try to be coherent. I've reviewed some of these files before just to kind of see the flow of the game. And but yeah, the idea is to it would be great if the players were here or in their after action reports would describe their game plan, like their defensive setup. I set up here because I want to do this, because I want to do that. You know, you'll see a difference in the setups. Oh, there's Randy. You'll see a difference in the setups, and without a real explanation of the setups being as they are, that kind of dictates how the player's going to play the game, if you understand, because some guys will set up way in the back, other guys set up way in the front, and their plan, and that's the basis of this entire thing, is focusing on your plan, because that's what we want to do. We don't want to change you as a player. We want to just make your plan more effective, if that could be accomplished, and things like that. And so you'll see different setups, and we'll just kind of go through these. So if you've synced together, so this is game number 1, and so this is early 41, I believe, right? This Dead of Winter, early 41. So right off the top of the bat, like, again, what do you guys see? And most of the guys, I did see a lot of corrections here. Yeah, it is December 41, and yes. Oh yeah, let's go over the scenario special rules, because there's a lot of things that happen behind the scene that need to occur, but we don't know if they do occur. A lot of times when guys will do logs, they'll write down the movement points and things like that, but it's not known here, so we just have to assume that what they're doing. Again, if the players were to show up, then they could describe, oh yeah, we forgot that, or oh no, we didn't forget that. So it's Deep Snow, Extreme Winter Rules. The AFE in the back on the left-hand side is a dug-in tank. So essentially it's an armor cupola, and the bow machine gun obviously can't be used. Russians have winter camouflage, which honestly never come into play because the ranges they attack at is not greater than like 9. I think it's 9 or more. And prisoners do not count as exit VP, and so that's that. So the Germans, if you don't have the scenario card, the Germans start up with 3 squads, 9-2, 8-1 leader, medium light, 1 demo, and a 37mm that's hidden somewhere, plus 6 trenches. And the Russians get 3 T-34s, I think M40s, can't even read it because it's too small, an 8-1, 8-0, which, interesting enough, I think they could turn that into a commissar. I'm not sure if any of the players did or not. And 6 assault engineers. Oh, not assault engineers, rather. Sorry, 6 elite 628s. So, what can you guys tell me what you see on the right-hand side? Okay, this is a joint session. So if you have a question, feel free to pause or say, "Hey, Stu, I got a question," and then we answer the question, because it's not about me. It's not about the game. It's about us trying to learn a little bit more about the process and things like that. So if you have a question at any time, just say, "Hey, Stu, I got a question real quick," and then we'll cover the question, because the questions, to be honest with you, are more interesting, because the questions have a tendency to lead into deeper questions, to lead into other understandings. In my Tactical Tuesday sessions, we simply came across like a one-liner rule about, you get to keep your concealment in close combat, and we took 2 of us 30 minutes to figure out how to do that, because if you go into close combat, you have to attack, you can't withdraw. So we were trying to figure out how you get to keep your concealment in close combat in starter kit, which you pretty much can't, but you still can. And so there's this odd sequence of events that can occur that will allow you to keep your concealment in close combat. So, but it took especially with the SK rules, it took quite a while to figure that out. But it was fun when, you know, 3 guys are deciphering and digging apart the rules. So that's kind of the. I mean, if you like doing that sort of thing, then this is kind of like for you, because this is more for the people that want to learn more about ASL in terms of either the rules or trying to improve like different gameplay, different things to look at. And again, the purpose of this, let's say I'm in a tournament, right, and I'm going to play David in the second round, and the Dead of Winter is the scenario that was selected for us. So the idea behind this is multifold, exactly what I told you before, and also as a kind of subsidiary or secondary effect is that when people submit game logs to the ASLplayers.net and ASL Scenarios Archive, right, we can access those log files instead of just AARs. Oh yeah, he came on the left-hand side, destroyed my 4 or 5 squads, and this, that, and the other. Well, that doesn't tell us anything about his setup, and doesn't tell us about, like, you know, did he get lucky on snake eyes and things like that, depending on your AAR. So what the VASL log will do is it will tell you everything that happened, every single roll of the die, every single hex moved. And so if you could access those files, let's say to a scenario you've never played before, and your opponent's played the scenario like 5 times, which I've run across personally, and a lot of tournament guys, you know, a lot of scenarios are kind of like regurgitated in different tournaments, and third RTR in the Reign's one of them. I've never played it, but it's been in every single tournament seemingly for about 20 years. But so if I were to play that against someone who's played it 8 times, you know, I'm going to be at a straight up disadvantage, you know, which I don't really care for me, because I like to play the same scenario pretty much more than once, unless it's like a teaching scenario. But what it will do is I could set it down if I have no clue, like, you know, if my gun setup, if I'm very weak in my gun setup, I don't use my tanks well, or oh my gosh, I got you know OBA, what's a good spot to put my guy in the OBA, and if I have a library of VASL files on particular servers, right, which doesn't exist, then I can access, you know, I can look up these scenarios on both those sites and instantly have an access of 5, 10, 15, 20, depending on if people submit them. Then I can run through different log files and see exactly how different people approached it, whether defensively and offensively, you know, and you'll see the dice rolls and things like that. But you'll get to see essentially the flow of the game, like choke points and things like that. And you'll kind of, you know, pretty much the flow of the game is the key point in when you're playing a scenario. And you know, if you don't know the flow, if you don't know how long it takes to get there, like this is an exit scenario, right? So we can't dick around firing for 2 or 3 turns. We got to keep moving. And you know, whether during those replays that you review, can they get off? Do they get off on turn 3 in a couple games? Do they barely get off on turn, you know, 4.5, 5? You know, I think it's a 4.5 turn scenario. Yeah, actually, the turn sequence these gentlemen have, it's not 5.5 turns. It's 4.5 turns. But I think they either catch it or whatever like that. But so that's kind of what we're looking at in terms of the secondary effect of this sort of function and game of the month, where it creates a depository, not a suppository, but a depository of information, where if people actually generate log files and submit them, which, I mean, I calculate that if you calculate the number of people on right now, right? I mean, how many games you got going on right now? 15, 20? You know, and this is pretty low right now. So that's on a daily basis. So if you got 15, 20 games going, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, that's 750 log files that you can review on an annual basis. So that's something that's just kind of that's a great resource that's just kind of being thrown away, in my opinion. It doesn't matter how good the players are, because even if a player does something really screwy, that still has information. As a matter of fact, that probably has more information than a person doing something perfectly.
because most likely we're all just average players, right? We're going to be that guy that's going to make those same mistakes. And so, but it's just learning the different, how people approach the same situation. Like this one here. I mean, this scenario here, the Germans are aggressive right up in front. And so that appears to be his game plan, although he's got his armor cupola in the back. We don't know what his AT gun is, and like a secondary unit in Z3. So pretty much, it appears to me that he wants to stop his infantry as hard as possible, as soon as possible, break them, and if he keeps them on the edge of the board, he could DM them pretty much for one turn or two, which isn't a bad strategy, because if he keeps them off there for 2 turns when they're all DM'd for a number of times, that might be able to really curtail his chances of winning, especially if he takes a tank. So I read the review in the ASL Classic, and this is where I got the idea of using this scenario. Is that in the previous game, in the SL edition, I think you'd have to move 2 tanks off and 3 squads in terms of victory points. But in ASL, the victory points have changed, so you could actually win by just getting the 3 tanks off, and that pretty much kind of is what the thing that happens. Otherwise, if you only get 2 tanks off, then you also have to get like 3 squads and a leader, which is reflective of the original squad leader scenario victory conditions. So I thought that was interesting. The writer of the article was pointing out, it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That's kind of nice. They kind of give the Russians a little bit more versatility, that they could lose a tank or something like that. So again, we'll step through it, and I'll have some questions for you guys, or if you guys have questions, then we'll pop it up. Again, this is meant to be interactive and not a one-way street. So what do you guys see straight off the top of the bat, or what don't you see that might early? Remember, it's 1941, and what's one thing that just kind of pops off the screen to you, or maybe should, or I don't know, shouldn't? Do you have any for the Russian setup, rather? For the Russian setup, what do you see that might seem a bit awkward in 1941?
From David here, I don't have the chapter H notes on these things, but I'm going to try to zoom in. But I'm not sure if they have radios on those.
Yeah, show info. Yeah, you can click show info, and
I just had to zoom in.
Yeah,
got it. They don't. They're radioless tanks. They have to move as a platoon.
Correct.
And with that one tank down by itself, he can do that, but he's going to have to do a task check every time that thing wants to move.
Right, but when you come on, you have to come on as a platoon, and they do catch it. Well, that's the first thing I noticed too. It's like, oh, boom, they got that. So stepping through the, let me change my my razor here, because I've got the.
Yeah, I just had to zoom in to see that.
Yeah. I've got it zoomed in on my screen to like 110%, so it's pretty much.
Also, I found the old squad leader scenario M, Dead of Winter, and it's 5 full turns. I don't know why it'd be 5, because the Russians go first, and it doesn't matter what happens in the bottom. But anyway, for them, it's 7 squads have to go off the south edge between those 2 hexes. Tanks count as with functioning weapons count as 2 squads, and they have the scenario layout is the same, like number of trenches, any tank.
Oh, nice, yes.
It's all the same, and I think deeps. Well, they have different rules. I mean, it was Crescendo of Doom. Cetera, but essentially it's the same scenario.
Yeah. Like I said, it the 4.5 turns would be essentially 5 turns, because you don't need a Russian movement phase or German 5th turn, because the Russians are either off or they're not at that point. So.
Yeah.
But they just had, for this reason, they had 5.5, and I had to check it. So,
wait a minute, no, it's 4.5. And that's a rush.
Yeah, so we're gonna step through, and so this is interesting. I learned something. I mean, I learned something straight up from the game. So first player rolls a 12 for wind change. So what is that? What happens with that in deep snow?
Does it start snowing?
No, it creates a drift, a snow drift.
Oh, how about that?
And so the snow drift, by what I read, shows up the next turn before the next wind change dice roll. And so it's like,
there it is.
Yeah.
I just found the rule. Sorry.
Yeah, and Chris was talking about it. He says, "Hey, gusts with snowdrift," and I just thought he was blowing. I thought he was just blowing smoke. It's like because I don't know what the hell the rule is, and so that's kind of neat that I learned something with the very first very first roll. Oh my goodness! Matter of fact, I think I was watching these guys. So he brings the guy on, and what I would do on the map edge right here, if you guys are doing your VASL games, I would now GG you can't do anything about, but on the map edge over here, I would crop that to the nearest whole hex, so you don't have a half hex, because it can really change a lot of things in the game, and that should be a whole hex anyway. And so, we have that ability to do so. Technically, you could do the same thing for the GG row. Just add another map board, and then just crop it to like the A row only, and then essentially you'd have the same effect. That'd be kind of just to square it out. Matter of fact, that's one way to do it, because most of those boards are the same. So anyway, he brings his initial guy on, and so all he's doing is revealing his leader, so he loses concealment. So. And then the other unit down below is going to blast that guy. So we'll go through it.
Ouch! Ouch!
Yeah. And so remember, with the deep snow, there's no plowed roads, no paved roads, and so therefore squads are like essentially 1.5 per hex, 1.5 movement factors per hex.
Right,
and
deep snow, that's everywhere. Yes.
Yeah, and so
I think inside woods or buildings or something like that.
Yeah, and
within a building. Yeah.
And I was looking at it. I was looking at the deep snow rule, and it doesn't say, because a lot of times, like if you're in a factory or something like that, or you get to move within the factory without having effect upon the ill effect of weather, but it didn't say. It didn't say contiguous woods hexes. Like if you look at the BB1 and AA1.
Yeah.
It didn't say it had to be contiguous. So if you went from T3 to U3, apparently it's just 2 movement factors. Where I would think that since you're crossing the hex side, but only because it doesn't say it's contiguous. And so since it left the contiguous out, it just said if you enter building, woods, or rubble, then you don't pay the cost. So even though the unit's going from open ground to open ground, he's paying the cost. But if he's going from open ground to the building, he only pays the 2, is what I understand.
Yes, and that's I've got a sticky errata on my. It's Echo 3.733, and it says an extra half movement factor per hex side, exception if entering any woods, building, rubble, or crossing a plowed road hex side. Period. Not from woods to woods, but just if you're entering the woods. So what they're saying, I guess, is that the open ground's like 1.5, going in the woods is 2. They're not going to make it 2.5, I think, because
you couldn't move. You could only move 1 hex per turn.
Yeah. Cumulative effect.
Yeah, to make it less up. So that because like you said, that's kind of what I determined out, because it didn't say contiguous, and a lot of other rules are contiguous.
This one just says just entering. So
right, and so that's good for the Russians at least. So it's kind of difficult. So he blasts them, and he also puts down a fire lane.
Oh,
so
how about that?
I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, good.
And he puts one over here. So the fire lane exists there. So the question will come up soon. And again, I don't know. Let's see. I'm gonna move this over here just so we can see it.
Yeah.
Hopefully it won't pop back over in the other corner, because I have it reduced on my map.
Yeah.
Because I personally have a question about so he goes 2-4.
Yep.
And then right there, he spray fires with the 4.67.
Okay.
So he's got the residual incorrect, but they correct it later. So again, like I say,
I was gonna say
they correct their things, which is fine. So now this is the question that I have, and again this just happens normally. So he moves let me back up. Hopefully I'm with it. So he creates the fire lane, and then he first fires the squad, and then nothing happens. So the next unit moves, and the next unit enters that location, gets attacked by the residual firepower, which is that one, and then the unit and then he final fires the group, which I don't think he can.
His initial shot, was it just the machine gun only?
The initial shot was the machine gun fire lane.
Okay, and it was just the machine gun. That was it.
Right, because the squad wasn't marked first fire.
Gotcha. So he then
And
so when they piled in the hex there, the spray fire initially was just the inherent firepower.
Right.
So first fire.
Right.
Guy comes in, final fire. It should be fine.
No, because he's laid his latest fire lane, and then you can only subsequent first fire, final protective fire, etc. if you're subject to a triple point blank fire attack, which he's not.
Oh, is that for the inherent firepower?
That's for the inherent firepower and the fire lane.
Well, as I understand, the machine gun is committed and it's done, as I understand it.
Well, the squad would be also, and that's the danger of fire lanes. And
okay.
let's see, it's under.
That's part of it. Like I thought that the use of the fire lane was just, unless it was a half squad, which of course.
Right. And halfway into the cancellation, 9223 is what we're looking at. It's manning infantry may use subsequent first fire FPF after establishing the fire lane, only if a triple point blank fire close combat reaction situation occurs.
Okay, I see. You can cancel the fire lane. Yep. Slashes manning infantry may.
And I've asked some people about that question simply because the parentheses is separate from it, and so.
Oh, it's in brackets, so I wonder if that applies.
Yeah, because if you subsequent first fire, then you have to fire the machine gun, right?
But no, actually, as I read it there, I'm reading it there in brackets. It's manning infantry may use subsequent after establishing the fire lane. Like that's separate from the rule. Like the machine gun may cancel, right? Only if triple point blank fire occurs, in which case the fire lane must be canceled.
Right, but since he subsequent fires, he has to fire all available LMGs, right?
No, FP. No, he doesn't. It's if a unit enters his hex, like infantry overrun or a berserk unit or bonsai or something like that, if they've already, like they're forced to fire as they come in,
right?
Whether that's FPF or whatever, and they have to fire everything. Which in that case, like in their own hex FPF, they would have to.
Correct.
I don't know about the other FPF. I think the other FPF can only if it's triple point blank fire, as I read it there.
Right, but he can't.
Or close combat. Yeah.
Right, but if the squad first fires, if a squad first fires, right, if you're firing some other direction, if he subsequents first fires, he must the machine gun is final fired, and he has to use that machine gun or forfeit its use for the remainder of the turn.
That's not how I read it here.
No. That's just general machine gun principles, right?
If you subsequent first fire, you have to use the machine gun again?
Yes.
No.
You either forfeit it or you sustain fire the machine gun. And since the machine gun's already doing a fire lane, and that I think that's where the triple point blank fire restrictions come into play. There is.
I don't get the part about where if you subsequent first fire, you must fire the machine gun.
Let's see.
I understand if you're FPFing, it's all bets are off and you're blasting away.
Right.
Like take away the fire lane. And also the bad news for here with extreme winter, it's a B+2 for the Germans.
Yes.
So if you sustain fire, it's a B+4, so you're breaking that thing on an 8.
Right.
It's gone forever on a 12.
Yeah.
And
you'll see that in some of these.
Oh, and also I didn't realize this is that they casualty morale check on an 11 or 12, not just a 12.
Yeah, and that shows up in the game too. It's like, what? How did how did this happen?
No.
So it's crazy. Yeah, a lot of little things like that actually show up in the game. So it's kind of fun if that happens. So here,
So what rule is this that we're looking up in the book here now?
Okay, the use of the LMG, in because the way I've had it explained to me is if you generate a fire lane.
Yeah, it's 9223. Alpha 9.22.
Yeah, 9223. Yep.
So about halfway down the rule, it talks about a fire lane's residual firepower that is removed from malfunctions. Its infantry breaks or pins or is eliminated, whichever occurs first. Yeah, so if he kept throwing guys into that fire lane, he rolls like a 10 or 11 or a 12, that fire lane is done. That's awesome.
Right.
So this is the thing here, ready? It was where it says halfway down. It says a MG may cancel its fire lane. Oops, may cancel its fire lane in order to gain freedom to fire elsewhere. There's a bracketed part. I'll skip that to
Yep.
try to better understand it. An MG may cancel its fire lane in order to gain freedom to fire elsewhere, only if a triple point blank fire or close combat reaction fire situation occurs.
Right.
In which case the fire lane must be cancelled.
Right. Essentially, somebody jump in your hex. Yeah.
Basically, somebody jumps in the hex. Now, the parts in brackets says its manning infantry may use subsequent first fire and FPF after establishing the fire lane. So what that tells me is the machine gun, like if you have a full squad, firing the machine gun, it's got that fire lane, it's going. But the rest of the squad can fire subsequent, or they don't even have to fire with the machine gun. They could just fire
Right, and that's what he did. He first fired with the squad, but
yeah.
but if you look under, I typed in the thing. A squad may not split its usable inherent firepower from that of its MG during subsequent first fire unless it opts to not use the remaining firepower support weapon at all. So that's where you fall into that situation where if the squad could subsequent first fire, then he couldn't use the LMG, and therefore would have to forego the fire lane, but that's not part of the cancellation.
No, it's not. And like talks about subsequent first fire. Already marked first fire made. If it's fire again, blah blah blah. Goes through it. Yada yada yada. He talks about how to do it.
So yeah,
here we go. Right down the bottom. Whenever a unit uses subsequent first fire, it must use all MG in its possession. As subsequent first fire, or forfeit their use of the remainder of the player turn. Okay, I see what they're saying. It's already being used. So let's say the machine gun has not been used, and right. So let's just say the machine gun hasn't been used. He fires its inherent.
right,
Right. First fire.
right.
Bang. Then he does subsequent first fire.
Right.
If he chooses not to use that machine gun, right? Machine gun has not been used.
Right. Then he can't use it.
Then he's done. He can't say, well, I'm final fire, because you marked final fire. Now you can't just say, oh, but I haven't used my machine gun. No, you can't.
Right.
You chose not to use it before.
Right. But if you use it initially, the only way for that fire lane to be canceled is
somebody enters the hex.
Somebody's entered the hex, and so
yeah.
And so what that does is it allows him to use it incorrectly allows him to use the LMG as well as the squad, because essentially what will prevent is if he had more infantry units that were just continually going adjacent to this unit, he could final protect a lot of what it seems to suggest. Well, it doesn't really seem to suggest, but if that squad were to final protect the fire like 5, 6, 7 times beyond that, he still can't. That's the problem with the fire lane. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't lay down your fire lane and then final protect the fire all around you. I think the triple point blank fire.
No, you can actually. You got the fire lane. You've already committed. Then you inherit fire. So the fire lane's done. Then he subsequent first fires, and let's assume he doesn't cower. So
right.
First fire, subsequent first fire. You can FPF. And that, and everything's going now. Of course,
but I
think that's how I see it there, because it's explicit in the rule. But that being said, they've already played it through, and like you said, this is more about
This is about pick up, but this is sort of things we pop up on. But just in the cancellation again, I always ask questions online so I get clarification, because I think. Simply because the MG, if you eliminate the infantry may use subsequent first fire, and so on and so forth, the only way the MG can be the fire lane can be canceled is if he's broken, pinned, eliminated at the end of the movement phase, or if the machine gun malfunctions, and no other way can that fire lane be canceled, right, or unless a triple point blank fire thing happens, right?
Yeah. Or okay, yeah, I'll talk to you guys after. Hopefully, I'll come back. But you guys take care, and I gotta go deal with something here.
No worries. We'll be here. We'll be here.
Later.
Okay.
Later on.
Okay. Take care, man. Man.
All right.
Bye.
Later.
So what I was going at is and again I think I asked this on Game Squad or wherever. So on the normal sustained in the subsequent first fire rules, if you first fire your squad, and just like David was saying, if you subsequent first fire your squad after that without using the MG, you lose ability to use the MG. I think we all can agree on that. The fire lane doesn't allow you to skip that rule. If you fire the fire lane, the only thing your squad can do is first fire. He can't subsequent first fire unless it's triple point blank fire, because the fire lane is committed to firing down the lane. You're still using the MG. You can't forego the use of the fire lane. And so I think it's what he did here. And also, since he used the LMG, against the unit in S3, right, and he killed the S628 with that 3, that he won't be able to use the leadership modifier on the subsequent attack. Now, I don't know if he did or not, because we don't know what the modifiers are, but that's just something that, a lot of times, people might say, hey, I'm just going to fire them together again because it's a different attack or something like that. So it's just whether he did or not, I don't know. Again, it'd be better if the players were here initially. All I could do is speculate on that, and but he rolls a, and so the key point here is you'll see a different here. So he gets a morale check, and so the leader will pin, and then the unit below him. So the leader and the squad will pin, right? Do you see that, Randy?
Yeah.
Okay.
I see it. Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, and that's the only reason why I kind of stuck on here, is keep that in mind. And little things like this can change the outcome of a game. A simple pin.
I see that they've moved the tanks now, remembering the platoon movement, right?
Yeah. Like I said, and he changed the residual firepower in S2, so they're catching a lot of stuff. And so again, they probably didn't use the 8-1 leader on the guy, but I don't think he can't cancel his fire lane like that normally, because I've been having trouble in doing the fire lane stuff. So he lines them up there fine, which is great. And so also with the deep snow rules, again, because I had to read the deep snow rules beforehand, each of the hexes the tanks enter is 2 movement points. And you also have the bog potential of the deep snow, and so they never show up here, but I'm not sure if they covered it or not. Again, I'll just give him the benefit of the doubt, because so essentially he gets to move maybe 8 hexes or something like that. So he takes a pot shot at long range. I think he probably hits with that. So he just continues to keep moving, and he turns his units this way, and then he ends. And so if he were to roll, the deep snow is +1, so he has to roll an 11 or 12 for the Russians, and then rolls a subsequent die roll, a secret die roll. When the Russians start moving, he rolls the bog roll for them. And in VASL, you can do a secret dice roll, which is the S die roll, which is right here. You can, like, if he were to do something like this for this phase, he could roll that, and then the subsequent die roll would be like that. So essentially, I have on my screen that I rolled a 6, and so if he reaches the point where the die roll, if he rolls a bog on the Russian units, then the subsequent die roll is how many hexes along that path the vehicle travels before it bogs. So even if you do roll a bog, if he doesn't travel that many hexes, he doesn't bog. So that may have come into play. And I did it like 3 times. There's only like 4, maybe 5 chances maximum for him to bog. So again, I don't know if they did that or not. I can only assume they did, but they just never did. It never came into play. So at this point, the infantry come on, and there you go. There's what David was saying: is the rolls infantry fire table of 10, and oops, and again, I'm not sure if he's firing everything combined,
which actually this attack is actually really interesting. I assumed. So if he final fired that counter, if he final fired that stack, this is where I got confused here. If he final fired the stack here, that means he had to have fired the 4.67 by himself, right?
Right.
Or the MMG by itself without leadership direction. And if he fired for the MMG, I would assume that he would use the leadership direction behind that. So technically, a 9-2 wouldn't be final fired, but he can't fire anything else anyway. But he can direct the fire on final protective fire. But I'm not sure that the Russian player gives him. Yeah, he actually does. He actually does give him that option there. And then he rolls an 11. So he rolled a 10-11 on the stack, and so that's kind of really bad. And and so that, instead of removing the MMG, I think it should have just mouthed the MMG, and then yeah, these guys just break. So, but it's neither here. The MMG just didn't play it part, but just a couple bad, pretty much a couple bad dice rolls up there versus the really good dice rolls he's gotten on the bottom. So so it's the advanced fire phase. Oh yeah, good. The spindle thing is actually working. So he fires back at the German, breaks the leader, and then these guys have to route. So he checks the LOS to make sure he can route down, which is kind of cool that it's blocked so he can route away. So he goes 2-4-6, so he just kind of routes away, and then the German advances. And then right here's the key point. This is the key thing that happens, and when little miscues happen, it can really change the overall complexion. It's like the butterfly effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've only got one squad going in there, and then you've got the subsequent squad behind him. So since he sends one squad in there, I think which I don't know which player's which. Let's see, it doesn't matter. They both roll 8. So. An 8 on a 3-2 is no effect, but an 8 on a 3-1 would be a casual reduction, right? And then if the leader would also, I think so instead of being pinned, this unit would have come in here because he wouldn't have had the firepower to do the pin. So this should be a casual reduction here, and you'll see how it changes later on. Like I say, it's not that big a deal, but little things like that can, when you reflect upon your games and say, well, how did I end up losing that game, this, that, and the other? It's the little things that usually ends up using the game. And there's the drift. There's the drift marker there, and then so you place a drift on, your random marker that you pull, and then you do a extent direction like a sniper roll, and then unfortunately it drifts off the board. I was hoping, literally the drift drifts off the board. I was hoping that would stay on the board because it'd be kind of cool. So anyway, that was kind of exciting for them to actually have a drift in the game.
Yeah.
So he tries to rally that guy down there, no effect. He didn't get lucky on his rolls. Both of the German weapons really aren't that good in penetrating their armor. So it's kind of rough on the Germans in terms of trying to destroy these vehicles. I guess if you could destroy them easily, it'd be pretty simple game. But no effect. All he has to do is just keep shooting. And again, I'm not sure if he's going for deliberate immobilization. Well, that can't be in a deliberate immobilization because it's over 6X's. But
right.
But so he's trying to do pop shots on him. And oh, David, did you just come back?
Yes, I did. Yeah. I'm back.
Okay,
Sorry.
and this is the reason why I stopped on the discussion on his firing on the 628. Oop, what was that? On the 628s down the bottom left-hand corner, because one guy ended up pinning, right? With, I think, excessive firepower that he probably shouldn't have had. And again, I don't know if he added the -1 leader to it or not, which he couldn't do at that point, even if he did final protective fire, because the LMG fired and then the squad fired. So he's going to add the 8-1 to one or the other. And then once they they fire together, he can't then add his modifier because
it's a different fire group.
Yeah, it's a bigger fire group.
Inherent, it can be inherent over and over again, but
So what happened is he jumped in melee down here. He rolls an 8, and if he had both squads in there, the 8 would have been a casual reduction, and we're going to see how that affects the gameplay later on. So anyway, I think here's your 11. Let's see, no, rally, no 10. For some reason, Oh no, he fires on them. Chris is the Russians and Daniel is the Germans, I believe. So so he fires on these guys over here, and
Yep. Just DM the guys, yeah.
yeah, DM him, and the he actually gets a morale check. I think he gets a really good morale check. And so he just DMs and kills the half squad because the half squad just got bad news.
Excuse me.
So
He hasn't fired the anti-tank gun yet, has he?
he has not. He has not. And so we continue through. So he's got LOS to the trenches.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So the trenches pop up over here, and he just advances his normal units here. Now he moves the. Actually, he's moving. So
Well, the spindle just moved. Yeah. But that's...
yeah. So he's he's talking about routing. So
Yeah. That guy's.
talked about this guy here. He's talking about no. I didn't know how the hell this guy got wounded. I don't know how this guy got wounded. I think he rolled. I think in the rally phase he rolled I think he rolled an 11.
Oh,
and that's what Randy was saying about you take casualty reduction when you roll an 11.
Well, here it says IFT 4. He did a morale check of 9. I'm not sure what the power was, but that was probably enough for him to fail. But I don't see a subsequent roll to see what the wound severity was. So.
I think it's the 40 roll. But yeah, it's he did roll a 4 because that's like when I was looking through the logs, like why is this guy wounded? He never took a wound check anywhere. But then I looked back and I kind of read the rule, and he rolled. I think his rally roll. Yeah, his rally roll rolls an 11. Daniel's rally roll was an 11, and then he just wounded him later, and he rolled a subsequent die roll of 4. So tell me about this unit here. Where can he route to if he can?
Hold on,
Let me put this back over here because it's the route phase.
Well, Nancy, do they have winter camouflage? Both sides, or is it just the Russians?
Russians in winter camouflage.
Oh, okay. I think he has to surrender because he can't go there. This is going adjacent to him.
Right.
If he, like, that's closest, I guess. But the route path, if he goes here, I think. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, but they only have a range of 2. Oh. For him, I would have to like low crawl because if he has to be risk interdiction at any point along the way, I
Correct.
think because they're closed top facing that way, I think he can go here, there, and there. If
Remember, he's wounded though. He's wounded though.
Oh yeah, but I mean that's the path from there to there, and then he stops.
Right.
Have to stop.
So what would his destination be? That's the question.
Going for there because it's three movement factors away. This one's.
How much? Remember, deep snow.
Oh, it's 3.5.
It's 3.5. So that's not what. None of this terrain, which I found later, none of this terrain he has to route to.
Because it's not reachable.
Because it's not reachable, so he can go anywhere he wants to. So he could like set this as his destination, which is really odd because that's where you add your movement factors into it. It's like, okay, how's this working out? And so he could go here or here, and so I think you're right where they say, well, since you're wounded, you have to go directly there, but that's 1.5 and then to here. And so because he's got 3 movement factors, and even if it were 6, to say he wasn't wounded, he could still then he could go there, but he could route this way.
Yes. And that's the thing I forgot about the deep snow.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, it's just 3 to go there, but he can go around the other way.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
You're right.
And then these jokers appear. Yeah, these jokers up here only have a 2 range, and all the tanks, just like you said, are facing the wrong direction. So he could technically route to X2 if he wants to go there. But, as you'll see in the traditional theme in here, if you're broken, the Russian's going to catch up to you and keep you broken. So it doesn't really play an impact in the game, simply because the Russians they just catch up to you. But it's just an interesting note that he actually does have a route path to go to, and that's one of the major things I see a lot of times when I spectate games. Routing skills are just aren't there. They just go willy-nilly, and that's what I cover a lot for my starter kit guys in Tactical Tuesday. Is that we focus a lot on routing because especially in starter kit. you can use your broken units to block units because there's no bypass. And so if you should happen to low crawl like an open ground between two buildings, now he's got to go around. And so the tactic of routing units is extremely important in starter kit because there's no prisoners, right? I can stay up in open ground all day long. You know, I just low crawl away all day long. And in ASL you can't do that. So when someone says ASL and ASL SK are the same game, they have not played ASK. No. That's all I got to say. Any ASL player going to SK will feel the frustration because a lot of the rules are not there, and so and there we go. And so now he enters the melee here instead of the previously, right? That he would have been able to be in that melee. So that should be technically. Since he was pinned, he didn't advance him. I assume that he would have advanced him. I'm just simply because it's close combat. You want to maximize your chances, like he's doing here. Then we'll see what happens with that. So close combat here again. Nothing happens. But in this second roll, right? Chris A is a 9, so that should be a 6-1, and that should be an elimination. So right now, this unit should be eliminated.
Wait, how do you get 9? Oh, because he should have been reduced earlier.
Yeah, he should have been reduced when the guy should not have been pinned, so he should have jumped in that close combat hex.
Got it.
So, and we'll see a difference, and so you'll see what happens. It's really interesting. And so more stuff comes up, and this guy's getting the hell out of dodge, and the kills. And so he blows up the tank pretty early, and I think he gets the crew survival. So he does get a crew out of that.
Yay.
Yeah, exactly. Pyrrhic victory, right? So he does get a crew out of that. Again, he just continues to DM this guy here, and then the monstrosities continue. So he's essentially right now he has this unit and his AT gun left, and his little guy in the back. So it's where you want the weather to show up and bog. And now at the end, he actually does again. Right here, he attacks, and Daniel gets a 4, which he should have been dead, right? And so what happens is he'll CR one of the units. This is extremely important. So he CRs one of those units. They're still in melee, so he's still screwed. But I mean, he reaches up. I mean, you still have 3 movement phases, so it's not that big a deal. But you'll see how. So the tanks are moving, going to the top. I mean, again, he's got nothing to worry about except for the 37 gun, which he finds right there. So the 37 rears its ugly head, and then the kill's not terrible on the thing, but it's just you just have to keep.
Put it in a building.
Yes, that's exactly what I thought. I don't know, and this is kind of a pet peeve of mine. I mean, the only reason I would think to put it in a building is so he can't be overrun. But at that point, you could put it in a trench. Or like out of the way, like I was thinking if I were to play the game, I might put it like just in V8 because the tanks are either going to come down here or come in the middle, or even if they come on the top, who cares? Get a flank or rear shot, and if the tanks are going to turn around and go back this way, pretty much that's their whole movement phase. Yeah, so at least you're burning a movement phase out of it. And if the infantry go up there to try and deal with you, then they're not going to get off.
No.
You don't have time for that.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you put it out of the way, even up here, I mean, you don't have to be in terrain, but at least you don't have that monstrosity of a +6 changing a covered arc. And if you do change a covered arc, I think if you do it in a building, you get like 1 shot or some shit like that. I don't know. I'm kind of sketchy on some of that stuff, but I think a lot of players put them in buildings for protection, but it's like you get in placement anyway. So it's a +2. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
I think maybe what they're trying to do is to retain the hip for as long as possible. Personally, like you said, just put it there.
Yeah.
And they see it, they go, okay, there it is. And maybe they'll react to it differently. Maybe just by being there, they're gonna. But I mean, I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, and so, but yeah, the building. But that's fine. I think he probably maybe put it here to get really close shots on these guys because they're either coming down here and right here. So
It's the doubling of the covered arc change. It's gonna be a +6 to change covered
Yeah.
arc on the first
And
shot.
they're in
Now, he
motion,
does have
so
rate of
he's
fire 3,
yeah, he's
which is okay.
hopefully he'll get rate of fire and then pop him at that point. That's the key point behind that. So again, Daniel's having a tough time with his morale checks here. So this guy breaks, so it's kind of grim for that. So he jumps on him, and again, finally these guys die over here in close combat. And so we'll continue moving here. And then here's where he swings it, rolls it to hit 8. Now he does get rate of fire, so so he gets the fire again. But I don't think that he does.
That's weird. I'd be pumping rounds into that fucking thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And see, this is where I got lost. Here is he rolled an 8 to hit, right? And so I think he just forgot that he got rate of fire on that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fine, which is easily done, because now, I mean, pretty much he's scrambling. I mean, he doesn't have anything left, and so he's kind of desperate. And so a lot of times when you have, like, heat of battle, you forget your sniper and things like that. I'm sure he just I'm sure he forgot that about the rate of fire. Either that, or I think there's a stipulation where if you change your covered arc in like buildings or woods, then you might like get only one shot later. I don't know, but
yeah, rate of fire 3 dropped it. I think it drops by 1. Maybe.
Yeah, and so
task check sniper.
yeah, so
Anyway, but I think it was his own.
yeah, and so he pops in close, tries to get this guy close combat, and unfortunately he doesn't. So he's burning his tanks off. Well, actually, I'm not sure what they deal with that. Maybe that was like a pre.
Oh, he's trying to do platoon movement. He should be doing platoon.
Yeah, and he's still doing it, but it's kind of.
Oh, I see.
It's kind of stagnant. Yeah. And so he's popping. He sees the other trench.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why these are here versus, I'm not sure why maybe he was going to have his infantry come back here and defend here, which would be great, because that gives him +2 terrain to the whole thing. That's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, that's
but
yeah,
but he trudges through here. One guy goes in, and then the other guys later come in individually, and then they get bogged. So he has 2 tanks that are bogged out of that, because one guy entered initially instead of all 3 of them entering at one time, and then the 2 entered after that, and then only one of them bogged there. So he got the Russian kind of got unlucky here, so he gets a tank off, which is great. And then pretty much it's just him moving, and so he starts to move his units. The DM there, he captures him. He picks up another prisoner, and then and then the 37 snakes is the kill roll on the Russian tank that bogged, so he's gone. So because you have 2 tanks gone, you need infantry off, right?
Yeah.
And so he gets his infantry to get off. Well, this tank's still bogged, so he can't get him off. And he remained bogged. He blasted with machine guns, and
20 victory points.
Right, and so all of his infantry get off, except for that 1/2 squad. And guess what? He scored 19 points instead of 20, and so he lost by 1 point. And that 1 point was
sitting right there at the edge, and that thing over there. Gotcha.
Yeah, because of the miscue over here. That's where. He had lost the scenario over there, but again, we miss rules, not a big deal, and the other close combats, he was there for like 3 or 4 close combats. So even if you play with whatever you do, but he just happened to have a couple missed close combat. But that one casualty reduction was really exciting to see. That normally it's like, even if he lost, he technically lost both tanks, and but his infantry were the key to getting off here. And that one close combat, even though the Germans pretty much have nothing on the board, allowed him to win the game. And so that's how dynamic, like we see an ASL game. I mean, how many people would have probably quit, when the tank blew up and all their squads are gone? It's like, you win, you just move off, whatever,
No, that friggin' gun was thing. I'm just looking at the card.
So
I was really curious. I mean, he only has 3 squads. That's all he has, really. 3 squads.
Yes.
In that freaking demo charge. I don't know what his thinking was putting them so far forward when he has a massive range advantage.
yes,
He has tripled the normal range. which means at range 12, right? Range 12, with just a squad, he can get a 2-down-2 shot on those guys, and those other guys can't do a thing to it if he had 12 hexes.
Right. Well, you've got the winter camouflage, but yeah, it's still gonna be 2-down-1.
Oh, but
Yeah,
the winter camp, but I mean,
yeah, it's
you're right. But
it's still a great shot, and like you say,
Oh,
he's immune to fire. I agree with it. I think he put him so far up in the front, to maybe if he got like 2 or 3 breaks, that maybe he could take on the other guys. But yeah, the close range of that is pretty risky. It's it's very risky to put him up front like that. But if he got, maybe he's trying to take advantage of the open ground, because knowing that he probably wouldn't get any other open ground shots over here if he fell back over here.
Well, that's true, but I mean, even then, let's have a look. Like, costs an extra half to enter, so 1.5, 3, 4.5, so 6, double timing.
Yeah.
Advance there, so that's turn 1, and he's still not even close. Then he has to go normal, so 1.5. Well, he can't even bypass because it's going to go through. It's going to go there for, and then advance to there. So that's turn 2.
Right.
If he went that way.
Right.
And that's half the game gone because he only has was it 4.5 turns.
Yeah.
So there in turn 2, and then now, I mean, yeah, you got this thing somewhere, you got this thing somewhere. Personally, when I played this, I ran my trenches right from there to there.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. You get 5. You get 6 trenches.
6 trenches. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So look at the overrun. You're a +4 overrun. So if those tanks are coming at you, they get the machine guns of 6, tripled in half is a 9 + 4. So you're probably looking at a
12 chart.
12.
Yeah, 12 + 4. That's survivable easily.
Oh man, I'm fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would be very hesitant about firing those machine guns, simply because of
the breakdown.
So the breakdown number is 10.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Same thing with the anti-tank gun and all that other stuff. But
Right.
It's you might, like, he's there in turn 2, so that's 3 to go there. Maybe, and then he gets shot, and then maybe here he gets shot, and then you have to sort of fight your way through with 2 turns.
Yeah.
So you got to buy a turn. You can buy a turn back here with maybe the tank does have a coax machine gun.
Yes, it does. It does.
Coax machine gun, sitting over here or something like that. Maybe getting some shots down
Yeah.
through this gap up here. And like you said, the anti-tank gun, I'd put it up here or something, way out of the way. But look at the flank shots here. And they have to turn and force it.
But I did.
I think it's it's tough.
Yeah, it's tough going. Yeah, definitely. I did like his trenches here because from the games that we'll see, the Russians pretty much just go through along the tree line and then exit the board over here. So I do like the trenches here. So like if he broke, he could go back to the trenches and try to rally. And maybe that was his plan.
German,
is to fire and then fall back, fire and fall back. Especially this guy, fire and fall back. He just got caught, And
if I were the Russian, I would have just put 1 squad in there, have a 3-2 advantage, and leave them, and just keep moving.
And just keep moving.
A third of the German force dealt with.
Yeah,
a
that's
third
true.
of his force is bound up, and if miracle of miracles he comes back, well, guess what? It's probably too far too late.
Yeah, he can't really. Yeah, he can't really. So that was the first game. Really interesting. Like I said.
Maybe a machine gun here just to buy turn.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Even if he doesn't assault move, 1.5, 3 advances. I'm not shooting at him. And then the next turn, he's like, okay, well, fuck. I mean, he can't even shoot back at you. I can be up in the middle of the room.
Yeah. The 2 ranges, like, he's got to get on top of you for anything to happen.
So if I had like the medium machine gun there, just check out the lines of sight from there, because you can do it ahead of time, because you are the scenario defender.
Right. Well, you've got definitely open ground stuff. I mean,
Oh yeah, so you're hitting them there.
Yeah, easily there, and and then
not hitting that, but still, yeah, you're
right.
Or
so
even down in the woods there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, exactly.
Here, guess what? He's not. It denies him coming down. He doesn't know it's there. It's concealed. Maybe it's just a squad, and he fires at him once. Next turn, 2, 3.5, advance. Guess you're out of dodge.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's just
Yeah, but interesting. That's like I say, interesting for scenario. Again, it seemed like the Russians were all over the Germans, and then both of his tanks bog on the outside. So,
Oh, that was like a kick right in the
and so
bodies.
again, it's just one of those things where, hey, don't ever give up a game when you still have to move off the board, that sort of thing, because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, he popped his tank. He finally got a kill on this guy here, and then they both, two of the guys bog, and so it really stifles the game. So that's kind of
The other
crazy.
thing I was just thinking in terms of, yeah, maybe you do want to put your anti-tank gun there, but start him with his covered arc this way.
Yeah,
He goes by, and then he's about to exit, and he's thinking, oh, your tank gun's down here, something, all of a sudden, whack, you're getting like rear shots.
yeah,
And if he's dumb enough to stop within 2 X's of you.
yeah. So it's pretty crazy there. But I like the way this game progressed. It was pretty crazy. Like you say, the dice rolls were kind of crazy. So let's go. I'm going to load up the other game. So in 1 second. Go ahead and go ahead and sync with me. Yeah, this one's loaded up really quickly.
Hey, there we go. Oh, that's different. I see what he's doing. Oh, he's got little black marks to show where to exit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So he's farther back. And
Yeah, I like this trench setup. This is the first time I've seen a trench setup. In this, or usually, like you say, people just throw them all on the outside, so they have to take a bog roll.
Pardon? How do I sync the thing here?
okay, right click on Stu's name, and then there's a new menu pops up, and one of them says synchronize. Just select that one.
Hey, Mark, how's it going?
It's going pretty good.
Good deal.
Just poking in. This isn't my usual haunting ground, but
Yeah, that's all right.
No.
Were you here during the first game, or did you just pop in right now?
No, I just got in. I just joined you about literally like 3 minutes ago.
Okay, cool. So this is the second game that we're going over, and so move. There we go. So we had some just rules discussions and different tactics because the players aren't here. We don't know their game strategies on how they want to do it. The last game, the defender, the German set up units way up in the front, and he pretty much just got overwhelmed. He just got steamrolled.
Okay.
Whether or not it was his plan to break them and keep the broken units on the game board edge, so he really couldn't route anywhere, and you really kind of do damage before he dies. I mean, that could be a viable. It's a high risk setup, and then maybe if he broke a half his units, then he could possibly retreat to safety. But it just didn't work out for the Germans in that one there. He ended up winning because the Russian tanks bogged in the trenches, so it was kind of odd.
Yeah.
But it was it just goes to show you. I mean, there was pretty much nothing left of the German force. And a lot of players' jobs, it's yours, you win or whatever. But you just still have to play it through because you never know what's going to happen. So, again, this defense is different. I kind of like the triangle defense because this is what I was thinking about when I first saw the other two scenarios first, the replays, and I said, what would happen if you just kind of put the trenches up further, and make the guy, do 2, 3, 4, 5, make him do some bog rolls sooner than later. Because once later, it's almost like he can't do anything. But just to change it up a little bit. But obviously this guy he's got his tank up further, sort of like in your face, and like you were saying, David. Now he's got that coaxial machine gun at least to cover all of the woods areas right here. So it might funnel the Germans or the Russians down here. And it looks like he's got a giant stack in Z2 that's going to be handling that. So it's a more consolidated defense. Plus, he could route through the trenches down here and route through the trenches back to here. So at least he can kind of get away a little bit from the thing. So
we got more people in the room. It's good.
Oh, there we go. Cool.
There we go.
Very cool. All right. Well, thanks for coming, guys. Cool. We had a couple of guys in the beginning. So this is the scenario 2 that we're covering, and So, are any of these games your games, Polypus? I don't know what your real name is, so. So
Yeah.
all right. So again, obviously the beginning of the Russian player turn. He set his tanks in the bottom, and it looks like there's just going to be a giant push, very similar to the other game, except for he's going to be bringing probably his tanks through that bottom row. And I kind of like the German player uses the white counters for the turrets because he probably that's a nice option. That it doesn't show a white counter on my screen, but on your guys' screen, it's probably a white counter.
It does for me, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh.
Yeah. Right. Right. I mean, come on. So
actually, it's not Malf. That thing is done.
Yeah.
It's gonna break the number, drop by 2.
Yeah, that's kind of the German really gets hammered in this one with his rolls, and that's his coaxial machine gun for you.
Oh wow.
So
This is
11 and a
also
12, and this thing is just heaping. Essentially, it's just a nice heated spot for the guys that are inside because hopefully their engine's going, and or maybe not since there's stagnant defense. They're probably cold as hell in there. Now it's even colder when everything breaks down. So with that, the Russians just kind of do their thing.
Oh,
Oh,
platoon movement?
Yeah, they have to.
Okay.
The Russians don't have. Yeah, it's 1941, so the Russians.
Don't have radios in those T-34s?
Yeah, they don't have radios. Yeah, absolutely.
Those KB. Looks like the early model M40 T-34s.
Yeah,
I think so. Yes.
you got it. So he gets right up in his front. Again, another 10. So, like you said, I mean, and I think it goes for the repair rolls on here, and I think it gets. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the. Maybe they figured out the main armament was disabled, and then the 2 was the first roll for that. That's what I can figure is because if you rolled for each one, then the CMG should be in play, but the main armament is mouthed on this one here.
Yeah, that's what I saw as well.
Of course, if you use a 661, then you won't have to bother with these nasty counters. You would have nice little bad thing overlays on the counter itself. So, but so yeah, we Russians are up in the face. We got a to hit roll from I have no clue what. The Russians are firing back at the Germans. So again, not much to see here. The Germans are keeping their concealment as long as possible. It looks like. Obviously, because if they lose their concealment, then the tanks are just going to unload on them. So I think they're waiting for the infantry to show up. Again, he's just playing a very cautious defense, making the Russians do essentially go out. So that was an advanced phase. So this is turn 2 of the Allies, the Axis rather. Because that should have been turned to 1. Really? Wait. I don't know if you CX this. Yeah, that was turn 2. I think the turn marker's off. That's all right. No big deal.
That's fine. Yeah.
So, so he did get this. It looks like he did get a CMG repaired.
Yeah.
But stone buildings and the like, it's kind of difficult. Again, he tries to maintain his concealment as much as possible.
Yeah, I saw that. That's good.
Yeah,
I think it's good.
Yeah, I mean,
And you could non-assault move from trench to trench and keep your concealment.
That's right. So that's kind of a really nice feature there. And again, like you said, pretty much this infantry are just like out in the open, but because they're in trenches, they're going to be immune to pretty much any overrun.
Oh yeah.
And +2 terrain is the best terrain that's going to be in the game. So essentially, the German is or it's behind a wall, which is the same thing as +2. I mean, these guys are vulnerable to overrun, but do the Russians really want to risk that? I don't really think they do. And so simply because there's a giant stack there. So we're just popping in the center. I think the Russians put an act there so the Germans wouldn't get close to him to jump him in close combat, which is a nice thing to do.
Oh yeah.
So you gotta acquire all these many hexes as possible just to deter Germans from getting frisky.
That's a really good tactic. I find is that when you start zeroing in, on a hex, then the bad guy, the other side knows that if I go in there, there's an extra pip in his favor to hit me. And,
Yep.
That one extra pip, man, that could make or break you. So,
Yeah, and considering where they're buttoned up, he's just really screwed. Just really screwed. So it looks like they hit the tank and
yeah.
maybe stunned him, and so he had to not sure, stun the tank. Maybe it was CE. Maybe it was CE. I'm not sure, but a lot of couple 11s popping
Yeah.
up.
Oh my God, look at those.
So yeah, that German tank's got a bunch of counter stacking on him. Are pretty quick.
It's all right.
So
yeah, he's all right.
that's pretty nasty.
Oh,
So again, your massive Russian firepower, like you saying before, Dave, 2x range, even halved is an 8. 8+1 is going to strip concealment pretty easily.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, he does break the squad. Sort of like the other German player. He just can't. The pass on the morale check's kind of rough, and the leader pins, which is doubly bad. Units move up in front again to pressure on the Russians there. If they take one tank out, they'll be really ahead of the game. And then they of course track the other unit. I don't think they both can track because this unit here goes through the wall right there. But that's okay, not a big deal. Just simply because the counters are obstructing the wall. I'm sure that's what the problem was. And then they'll just go the route phase. And then ally turn 3. Should this be turn 4, Dave? Guys, do you think it should be turn 4?
And usually when you rotate the wheelie wheel, it'll say
Yeah.
turn this, but I don't see that. Is it turn 1?
Because I thought turn
Over
1. I
there.
thought turn 1 he ended here, and turn 2 he ended here, and turn 3 he ended here. So anyway.
I
Anyway.
don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I had not actually checked that on the thing. So.
I noticed his anti-tank gun hasn't come on yet.
Right. I don't even remember where it is in this case, to be honest with you. So he's trouncing here. Now this is kind of odd because there's no trench here, right?
Yeah.
But I haven't checked this with the original board, and this is the reasoning. Well, a lot of guys will say, "Hey, I'm going to set up all my trenches here." I said, "Well, why don't you just bypass the woods hexes?" And so looking at the overlays, right? Let's pull out the vehicular bypass movement overlays.
Oh.
So
mine doesn't have that. I don't have that. I don't have the.
And what they did is I never used this before, simply because if you see the overlay, right?
Yeah.
You'll see right there. It's got a dot right in the middle. It's got a small dot right in the middle. And before, they must have fixed this in 661. But before, if you put it on a hex, it wouldn't center in the hex. You could see that the dot would be off of the center dot. It's like, well, that doesn't do any good if it's not centered, because it doesn't give you the same distance around it. So let's say if the trenches were going from here, 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 and here, can he bypass this location? And if you look at the little bypass thing, he can't, because a little bit of overlay is on the hex side. So that's non-bypassable. And then if you take it down here on this one, clear the map, he can't bypass those hex sides either, which I didn't even see. I didn't even look for until later. I don't know what the regular board 4 looks like, but that's beside the point because you're playing on the media that you're playing on.
That's right.
So that's a non-bypassable location, which I didn't even consider because I never use. Oh, damn it! Oh, I have to get off the LOS for that to come back. Or maybe. What the hell's going on here? Hold on. There we go. So that should be a non-bypassable location. That's beside the point. They did it, so it's not a big deal. But a lot of these, like this little woods over here, really tight. It's tight here. It's tight here. So all of these are essentially non-bypassable in terms of vehicular bypass for most of the vehicles. They pretty much have to go right down the road. And I hadn't actually realized that until later on after he bypassed it. And it's like, well, wait a minute, can he bypass it? So anyway, moving on from there, not a big deal. So those guys are DM'd, and he tries the demo charge toss, no effect, and then he pauses here for his destruction of the German force. And 9-2 pops out, tries to hopefully starts to shred these guys. He does. He gets a break on them at least, And so, oh, there's your 37 right here.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So he must have gotten a result on this guy here to bring the AT gun out. That's the only thing I could think of. He must have gotten a result from a fire attack, and so that's kind of unfortunate that the gun popped out, especially if it's going the other direction. But that's all right. And so he's got his tank here in BB1, BB2, and I put a question. This is where my question came from on Facebook. Is that this tank bypassing that hex side can't see these units?
He's on the other side of the.
Yeah, he's on the other side of the location. That usually doesn't come up in a game, but in this one, it can make a big difference. Especially now, obviously, he can blast this guy, but this guy's got no LOS to him, and so technically, he'd have to route that direction, and then he could route. Then he could route over here, take interdiction over here. But again, it doesn't really matter for the German units broken. The only thing he's going to do is block that location for a turn. But it doesn't really make that much of a difference. Well, actually, this guy did break, so. But in terms of routing, this unit now does not have to route because the Russian unit, well, the Russian was broken for one thing, so he doesn't have to route anyway. And then he moved away, so he still doesn't have to route. But he decides to route that direction, which puts him in harm's way for the X1. But again, hey Bulldozer, how's it going? And so that's just a rough situation. Again, like you were saying, David, range. I think the range is a key in this one because the common theme of both of them, at least the German player kept his concealment as long as possible. But his 9-2 in stacks over here is broken. He's got nothing left again, just like the first game. Whether that's due to the machine, well, the machine guns down here took these guys out, and he hasn't had his tank the entire game, so that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. And his gun comes out early, unfortunately. And so now the Russians are essentially just going to pile on this guy.
Oh yeah.
And just moving through again. We've got a concealed unit going through entrenchments, so it's going to be a nasty ambush. And then,
oh god,
yeah.
Well, and he did. Look at that roll of 1.
You wanted a 6. I get you. So that's like what a
3 to 1,
7, a 5 or 7 difference.
Yeah.
And
so 3 or so. Yeah, he got him.
Yeah, so that was pretty nasty. And then since he ambushed and killed him, he gets to withdraw, and so he withdraws closer to the other broken units, and he gets to keep his concealment. So yeah, the Russians.
That really helped.
Yeah, that kind of helped a little bit. So he turns the gun here, and again, I think he fires the tank here.
Oh man, he did. He got a 12. That's,
right.
Yeah, it's fucking done.
Right, and so that thing is just gone. But and that's it. I think they called it right there, and then they start throwing the.
Oh, they're talking about different things. Yeah.
And so they show the bore site location, the 75 and the medium. But again, like I said, just the difference here is. I mean, all those 37 came out early. He couldn't fire on this unit here, which he did, which malfunctioned. But it doesn't really matter. Let's say he just fired on him when they moved over here. Doesn't really matter. He was still. We're just going to apply that same 12 to that roll there. Still would have mouthed it, or the Russian infantry would have just mauled him anyway. He had no real defense behind him, so it's neither here nor there on what his roll was. But he just got unfortunate on that dice roll. But he did switch his gun backwards, like you were suggesting, Dave, that catch him either flank or side or rear or something like that on the backside. So that's one interesting thing to note is you don't always have to have your AT guns pointing forward because most of the time you can't scratch your armor anyway. So, but I did like all the. I mean, again, he got some really crappy rolls. This 75 doesn't really do much against the front of these tanks anyway, but he could have really put the hurt on and stopped the pressure from the infantry from there. And that's probably what his intent was. One thing I didn't see is I haven't seen any smoke from the Germans. Although he malfunctioned his gun, he couldn't do that. In the other game, there was no smoke either.
Yeah.
And that might help. Go ahead.
I do believe that they said that they concluded the game? Who won the game supposedly? Because I don't think the Russians did. Because he took too many movements. He's not off the board, right?
Right, but it's only it'll be turn 4 and then 5, and so there's nothing really stopping. Actually, he'd have to go through here.
No,
yeah,
remember.
I wouldn't have stopped it either.
He's already okay. He's okay. By the time the Russians moved down here, let's see, what is it?
Yeah, he's still kind of curtailed, but they kind of ended the game here.
Yeah, he did. He's actually moved. They never moved the turn marker properly. Okay, and so they're actually on turn 6 here.
Can't be turn 6. There's only 5 turns to this thing.
Yeah,
but they forgot where they were.
Yeah, I think you're on. I think turn 4, right? We'll go back through it, and I think you're right. I think he stopped here a turn or 2. Yeah.
Right. He was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5 is when he's coming around to here, and he has to he can't take the shots. He has to get the guys off.
Yeah.
Okay, and if he doesn't move them off this turn, I think he's a turn behind. Yeah. Okay.
How many exit points are those tanks? Are they 6?
There's 7 each.
7, so he gets 14 off there. He needs 6 infantry points off. So
right. Let's see if he let's see if there's a task.
Two squads in that down 1 leader.
See, on the to hit of 12 here, that's where they stop the game though. So I think the German says, okay, I'm going to concede. But
thinking it's turn 3, yeah.
Yeah, but even if it's turn 4, he's got one more movement phase to move off, right? So, assuming this tank can start up because it's not in platoon movement, these guys are gone, right? These guys are gonna be off the board. They're gonna exit.
14, yeah.
We've got a 228 here. Now you can't. Can you exit from here? Now this is blocking it anyway.
No, that's blocking.
So you've got 2 blocks here. So you've got to get your. You'd have to get 2, 4, 6. Yeah, you'd have to get 3 squads in the leader off. Out this direction.
2 squads in the leader, because 2 squads would be 4, and the leaders will put another 2 for 6. That will get you to 20.
The 20? Yeah, 20 points. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
20, yeah.
Yeah, 20 points. So yeah,
but.
these guys are DM. Yeah, exactly. You've got 2 firepower right here. This guy's still in the game. This guy's playing a critical role at this point.
That's possibly a 4 down 2 shot. They're gonna have to.
Right.
If this is turn 4, then in this turn, at the end of the turn, Soviet turn 4, they're gonna have to get in close combat with that guy. And then if they win, then they got to pile out in turn 5. If they lose the close combat, if they gack the rolling 12s and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So these guys physically, the infantry here, the leader can make it off, but the infantry here can't make it off. They have to go through this guy, because this is 2.5, and that's 4, and that will be 6. So he couldn't even advance off. Simply because of the snow. And this guy in the back is really screwed. That's 2.5. That's 5.
Oh God.
So he's really screwed. And if this guy rolls a task check, he could try to go off, but he'd have to go through. He'd have to come across here, and then again, I hadn't actually seen this. I actually noticed that is taking into account.
I don't think you could bypass that, like you said.
Taking into account, you can't bypass it, so he at least has to take a bog. He's got to take a bog roll for the deep snow, and he's got to take at least 1 bog roll for the trench, and to get off. And plus, if he's here, he's got 8. Essentially, for all intents and purposes, it's 8 movement points that he's got, because it's +1 per side. So it's what's that? 3,
yeah,
6,
and then
7, 8. And then if he goes 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, he'd have to ESB to get off, to be honest with you. So even if he bypassed that's 4. I'll have to see how what their submission is. But let's let me reload and let's try and track the turn, because I don't know if the Germans capitulated this or gave up or the Russians. And it would be really interesting if they got the turn wrong, because that means, again, you have a Russian force that or a German force that's completely annihilated for the most part, and then you have, even with the stinking 12s right in the beginning. Go ahead and resync with me if you want. even with
Oh,
the 12s, even with the 12s in the beginning, and not really even having that tank whatsoever, it's like you said, Dave. You can't. There's no stopping in this game. You can't stop. You have to continue to move.
Go.
And so let's track the turn on this one here, because when it was turn 3, I thought it was kind of odd. It's like, well, shouldn't it be turn 4? So here's the beginning of the game. So we're just gonna kind of cruise through it.
So we know it's turn 1.
Yeah.
Here comes the tanks.
So the tanks move here, and the guy
Now it's
stops.
turn 2. Or sorry, ally axis turn 1.
Yeah.
Right. So they're flipping. Looks like they're flipping the counters over wrong. Yeah, because right now it's saying Ally turn 1, unless they flipped it while I was just looking down.
Yeah. Are they using the phase marker?
No,
I
I
haven't
don't think they are.
seen it advance.
Yeah,
No.
so now it's turn 2. So
Okay.
hit prep fire because you tell me prep fire and move.
Right.
Yep, got it.
Yeah.
They're not using the turn.
They're not using the turn thing. So they'll just put.
So watch when they do the prep fires.
Yeah.
Advancing fire. So now it's top of 2,
Okay.
bottom of 2.
Right.
Yeah, bottom of 2. Can tell the final markers with the German Soviets. So now it's probably
At the top of 3.
Top of 3. Yep.
Top of 3. Yep. It's top of 3. And now it's breaking. So.
Oh yeah, I think they left it on top of 3.
This is bottom. Now we're to the bottom of 3.
Yeah.
Yes, bottom of 3. There's the Germans. Bottom of 3.
Yep. And that's it. Bottom of 3.
Oh, I guess they did. I guess they were. I guess it was only turn 3.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was, for some reason I thought it was turn 4.
Oh,
So-
in that case, they have 2 turns to get off. That's plenty of time.
Right. But they still have to get by this unit here, right?
They do, but here's the tricky part. Now it's the bottom of 3. Defensive fire against that guy is going to be really fucking brutal.
Yeah, that's true.
And the other guys there assume these guys route away, and they cannot end there because they'll be adjacent to him. So they're just going to
Well, no, they could route here. That's the key. They could still route here because this unit's not an LOS.
Oh, right, he's bypassed. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. And so that's what.
Yeah.
And again, that little miscue. I mean, this guy.
Yes.
So he routes here. This guy might roll his bullshit 4 and then roll his bullshit 3. We've all seen that. We've all been there, where this stack has come back. I mean, I've had a half squad, a broken conscript half squad, roll snake eyes and rally, and generate a leader, and then jump into close combat to the guy that was next to him and kill him. He was dead, but he just pops right up with the snake eyes, and gets in there. He actually got a 7-0 leader out of all the modifiers for that. So this guy is still viable, and as well as that, this guy is also viable as well. He's a 9-2 leader. That's a 5 to rally. And at that point, is he an offensive weapon? Let's say the unit doesn't. The unit doesn't rally beneath him. The leader can still move and occupy terrain, so at least the infantry can't get off.
Yeah, I'd be going. I don't know if they have enough for a human wave. I don't think they do.
They have 6. They need everybody.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, they would need
infantry overrun maybe. I'd do an infantry overrun on.
Yeah, but good. Then I mean, he'd have to be adjacent to him to do that.
Yeah, because the deep snow.
Right, exactly, right. And then he could just retreat and get the hell out of Dodge and maybe just block something just for something, just to do something to do, whatever. Or if the 9-2 made its way back to the 228, I mean that's going to be he can't move adjacent. He has to move around, and then I mean he can still fire at long range. That's a 1-4.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's pretty sick, and he's final protective firing forever and ever on that sort of thing.
And that's right. No, the thing about this scenario in general, I think, comes is that one, the German, they're down, like they're outnumbered 2-1.
Yeah.
But they have that range. They gotta use that range.
Yeah.
There's no ifs, ands, about it. I kind of like their trench setup here. It's kind of different.
Yeah, that's what I like too. I really liked Again, I saw the other 2 games first, and it's like, you know, I hope somebody does something odd with their trench setup, and to be honest with you, this works. I mean, this works simply because you can't bypass this hex.
You're right, you can't bypass, and you got to force them. The other thing is that he would say, right, I have to go way up top and come all the way down and around and behind.
Right.
And guess what? That anti-tank gun is sighted for that.
Yeah.
It's sighted for that. You come around there, and it's going to start popping you. And I don't care who you are, a side shot from a 37, and what are they, a 6? Yeah, but, you know, a 37 gets that range advantage, I think, up to 2 hexes.
Right.
Double check.
Oops, sorry. I'm trying to move the overlay. I'm looking at the overlay, and if you check out the overlay here, if you click on your map, your little right next to the prep fire X, if you click on it once, it will get rid of everything except for our overlay. And so you can see there, like if you put your trenches like here, here, and then so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The only 2 hexes that the Russians can go through without bogging are these 2 up here. So you're going to get guaranteed bog roll because you can't bypass this hex, this bottom hex side. Let me see.
You gotta do wide right. That's going to buy you a turn to get up there.
Yeah.
To get back, and you've only got 5. So yeah, I think for the German, he really has to use his range, has to use his shots, you know, judiciously, have route pass, and also like just think that's it. You're gonna lose guys, but I think on both of them we found out is like, you know what? At the very end, it may look like you're not gonna win, but guess what?
Yeah.
He still has to exit. And
you still have to exit. Yeah, that's a tough part.
You got that little shitty crew sitting there. Well, guess what? That guy's got to come adjacent.
Yeah.
Face a 4-down-2 shot. Not for me, thanks.
That's right. And so both Z3 and AA4 are non-bypassable. Both of those are blocked. And so trench, because you got block, trench, block, and then you can just throw a trench line like this or trench line straight up or whatever. Which what that will allow you to do is allow you to put your MMG right here, or you can do the trench line slightly this way. You know, and actually what you could do is you could tilt your trench line this way and put a unit right into Y7 with a machine gun doing a fire lane down to the bottom. So when the Russian finally does move that way, you'll have a good thing. And let's say he advances there, right? Let's say he just stops here and doesn't go in your... If he advances there, if that's your 9-2 leader, now you've got, you know, even if it's an LMG, let's say it's the LMG, the worst situation, that's going to be a 1-2 in the open. Or 2-2 in the open.
Thanks. No thanks.
Yeah, and so it's just like you're moving in the open anyway, so you might as well move through, you know, so that might be an option where you could actually stretch the trench line the entire way. That would be interesting because he's going to have to take a bog check guaranteed. And if he bogs early, then you have infantry that might be around it to jump on the tank and blow the tank up.
Yeah, you do got the DC.
Oh, that's right. The DC, I hadn't even thought about the DC. Honestly, DC never comes into play here, but yeah. Now, can you... the question I had, Dave, or the other guys, you could set up a DC like... I could set up a DC like in this hex here, right? So I could just like set the DC and walk away and, you know, have my plunger ready, wait for that tank to go in there, and could I blow it up then? Does it work that way or no? At least for infantry, it works that way, right?
Set DCs are one of those things, like, really. I did one in a game and I vaporized a trench line, which was awesome.
Right.
But a set DC, I'd have to...
Oh, you know what? The Germans could put the DC in the stone building.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. There's no protection then. He puts the DC in the stone building, and then he sets it, and he moves across to like a trench or some shit like that. And if he goes, the Russian player can't go in that building. So it stops the Russian player from entering that building because it will vaporize you. A set DC will vaporize you.
Oh, yeah, those things are...
Yeah, so that's that eliminates that location for the Russians to actually go into. And so if you bring your machine gun fire on hexes on either side of it,
So you can set I just got to the rule. You can set it during the game, right? But prior to play is only by SSR.
Right.
So you'd have to set it, you have to announce it's hazardous movement, etc., etc. But it's detonated on the 36 column.
Yeah. -3, right?
It's And the detonated 36 call the -3 and no TEM.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're
Oh,
you're gone. So
yeah, it's
if
a
anything,
beautiful thing when they work.
right. If anything, they could just set the DC there, and even if they detonate it early, they'll rubble the building. I'm not sure I would rubble it because, well, actually, that would be a 3 movement factor hex, which means that the infantry only move one at a time. But that would stop the 628s from piling up there. That way, you could set units here and defend against the bottom because there's no terrain for him to defend up here. You can actually put the set DC. The only thing he's got is that stupid woods right here, and you've got a -1 leader in your entourage that can negate that. Now, whether you put the -1 here or the -2 there to make it -1, that's a game decision you have to make. But you could take that +3 terrain away from him just like that.
That's awesome.
And then,
Well, he'll still have it, but it'll just cost him all sorts of shit to get through it.
yeah,
And
well,
if he gets in there, boom.
yeah, exactly. He's going to lose the squad. He's just going to lose the squad straight up. So he can only take one guy in there, and so yeah, that's kind of interesting in that case. And like you say, you just detonate the sucker to blow it up, and then you won't have line of sight along it. So if he had guys back here and guys here, he couldn't see Z1. He'd have to stack them all up here to get firepower on you here, and so you're funneling his attack to one location or this other location over here. And again, all of that's pretty much open ground. When he routes, he has to go back. You know, technically he could stay there, I guess. But when you blow this up, let's say you only get one guy. Well, let's say you don't even kill him at all. At least you rubble it, and that stops it from being bypassable, and also stops LOS through the location, through the entire hex. So that could changing the topography of the map in that case. I hadn't actually thought about it because I was watching the other games. Like, you know, no one's using a demo charge. You know, no one's using a demo charge at all. And, you know, they try to place it on a tank. Most of the tanks are going to remain in motion. That's never going to have an effect. I'm wondering if that's the purpose of the demo charge, is to blow this building to hell. Because
I wonder if you could use it if you survive an overrun.
Right.
Place, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But hopefully you'll be in the trenches, right? And,
yeah, I'd be in a trench, play, a 12 up 4, okay, yeah, I'll take that all day, and then he rolls, and then, okay, close combat reaction fire, woohoo, take this.
Yeah, with a -2 leader, yeah, he's done. So, because the Germans can set up here, and the Russians can't get to him on turn 1. So he sets it on turn 1, and then because the range, the Russians can't even attack him.
Don't even, yeah.
I mean,
they don't know it's there, because it'd be concealed, it's like,
right, and so...
Setting a DC, got my task check, it's good, now running away. It's like, oh fuck. Even if you don't set it, they now know that there's a death trap waiting for them right there.
That's right. That's right. And so I hadn't played it. I want to play it now. I want to play it and just do that as the Germans, and just to see how that changes the complexion, as well as the different trench line on that one. So interesting game here again. Bad luck on the Germans. His tank was essentially gone on first shot. His AT gun pretty much gone. First shot or so. And so, a couple of bad rolls there. I did like his setup. His setup looked really intriguing. Unfortunately, the dice roll didn't go his way early. And so I think this would have been a really tough fight if he had at least the tank up for like maybe 2 turns just to harass them more. I mean, at that point, you could start smoking units where they can't even affect your German infantry, and they may have lasted a little longer. So, very interesting game in that aspect. And like I say, unfortunately, it didn't. The Germans kind of got hosed for some dice rolls, but it's not too bad. So let's go to our third and final game. We had 3 games submitted.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to bail out here. I got a couple things to do. It's in Atlantic Canada supper time.
Yep, no worries.
Getting hungry.
No worries.
But yeah, it was great to see these games. This is a lot of fun. I like doing this. And
yeah.
maybe,
See, it's just.
What do you have for the next game of the month coming up? Like, do you have a scenario yet or no?
Yeah, it's posted. It's posted on the ASL Scenario Archive, and it should be in here as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So look up there on Scenario Archive. I think it's a Monster Gap. It's a friendly fire. Matter of fact, the scenario. Oh, he's gone. So the scenario is also posted on here as well.
I dropped out for a second.
Oh.
I don't know.
So it's Monster Gap. It should be the file. It should be here. Let's see. Because Heat of Battle said that we can.
Yeah, I thought I saw you. I thought I saw it there.
Is it here? It should be here, right? Where it should be in ASL. Let's see. Game of the month ASL files. Yeah. Game of the month ASL files. Monster Gap. That's the scenario. And that's you just download it. And again, if you guys don't have it, if you want to pick up the friendly fire stuff or whatever, if you don't have anything like that, then Steve said he gives discounts if you guys want to buy some of the Heated Battle stuff from him. So you just have to contact him, say, hey, I'm playing Game of the Month with Stu and whatever, and he'll hook you up with a good discount. He said.
Okay, I'm not seeing where this Game of the Month review.
Yeah.
See that? Is it further up the channel?
Game of the Month ASL files. It's in the text channel. Look at the text channel, and then open the text channel in case you haven't.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yes. So, GOT man ASL files. There we go. Got.
Right.
It's right there.
So,
Got it.
but it's right there, and just download it and then read it and have fun. Have fun. So we're on our final scenario here. Now this.
All right, so I'll see you guys later. Thanks again for everything, and I'll talk to you later.
All right, take care, David. Thanks for showing up.
You bet. Bye bye.
So we've got different Germans set up here. We've got one unit in the front, one unit at the top, one unit in the building. Again, I'm not sure if he's going to set the DC there. I think it'd be kind of cool if he did, and then one unit in the back. So this is really swapped up on this. His gun over here is probably protected. They probably put it back here so he can't be seen from the tanks, which seems pretty prudent, simply because he's got to get rear and side flank shots for that 75 to really do anything. So he's probably using the tank back here strictly for anti-tank defense. And it doesn't really matter what facing the tank is, because it's hull down all the time. So the facing only really matters with the turret. So that's, when I looked at it, it's like, hey, that's kind of weird. I think the first player had the tank facing the completely opposite direction, and but it doesn't really matter with the tank. I think they actually have armor cupola counters. They can just put a cupola on that, but not a big deal. But let's see how this one develops here. Oh yeah, I remember this one in terms of the entry. So Germans or the Russians coming up hard and fast on the bottom. Now, one thing I think what they had a miscue here is they're doing armored assault, but it's not a human wave, and so the movement here I think is illegal, but I don't really think it changes anything per se. He'd have to be human waving to be able to do that, and since he doesn't have LOS to anybody on the map, he can't human wave initially from off board.
Oh, okay.
So, but again, like that 467, sort of like the first game, he gets a snake eyes and eliminates the first German or the first Russian squad. So he's gone. The residual will be a little bit lower than that, but it doesn't really matter because no one else moves into there. I think this guy's bypassing, and the 9-2 takes a shot at the second guy, and pins him there. Now, I don't think the vehicles can move any further, because that's, let me see. Oh, yeah, because they CX'd. So if this was 1.5, 3, yeah, so the vehicles can move here. That's one thing I screwed up when I was reviewing the file, is I didn't think the vehicle could move here, but the squad could have moved there because he was double timing. So it'd be 1.5, 3, 4.5, 6. So that's the extent of where the vehicle can move. So that's fine. But they just couldn't move all together, in terms of all the infantry moving with the tanks. They'd have to move as a human wave again. And the other unit comes down here and runs the backside. Let's see. That's probably out of LOS. That's probably out of LOS to this unit here, so it probably gets concealment. So good first firing from the Germans. And again, that's probably why this unit's up here, is just to break a couple units and die in place, and just to try and slow the Russians down, which is fine. He pinned one guy and the other guy's dead, so that's not too bad so far. Not too bad at all. And yeah, he's got a machine gun there. Now, sort of like what we were discussing before, if you get the 12 range on the machine gun, I would think the medium machine gun would be up here for the range. But I guess this is an 8 range. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's still going to be able to cover that location anyway. But yeah, hopefully we'll see what the, I don't even remember how this game comes out. Oh, he's removing, he's moving his guy from the top, trying to get an end around over there, and then the other 467 kind of runs away as well, which is kind of nice. Oh, and oof. So the 9-2 takes rolls a 12 for morale check. He doesn't die, but he does get it looks like he failed ELR as well. That's not good at all. Must have been a good roll. 12, 6, 2 morale check maybe. So that whole stack gets destroyed by, looks like, tanks. And I think that's an LOS, he said. I think that's an LOS. Is what they were checking. Yeah, for interdiction purposes. There we go. Oops. So I think he wants to stay there, but let's see. 2, 1.5. And again, here's another thing about the route. Is what we covered before with the other wounded leader. So you've got a wounded leader here. He has 3 MF, and the squad has 6 MF. So if his destination is Z0, and he doesn't want to take interdiction here, because it looks like he moved back there, and the guy says, "Oh, you got to be interdicted." He says, "Well, I'll just stay where I am." I still think he can get there because he can go 1.5 here, and then 2, 3, 4. So it'd be 1.5. That would be 4, and this would be 6. So I think he could still get there with the squad. But the leader, simply because he can't physically make it there, he could route anywhere he wants to. So the leader can go 1.5 here, and then 3 or 1.5, and then you can't obviously go over that. But the leader can run away if he wanted to, and the squad can get out of there as well. But unfortunately, this guy's probably the leader, so he's probably not going to rally anytime soon. So anyway, that is a routable. The squad could route away. The leader could also route in whatever direction he wants to, because the leader does not have to go to Z0 because the leader can't reach Z0. So that's another interesting. The same thing happened in the first game. We had that wounded leader in V2 that was attempting. Said his destination was X1, but his destination couldn't have been X1 because he can't make it there. So his destination would just be in the open ground. So wow. Oh, it looks like he does. I'm not sure. Does he? Did I back it up too much? Oh, yeah. Yeah, he routed too far with the leader, but that's fine. You know, mistakes will happen. So I'm not sure what the bouncing Betty's here for here. Oh, so he skulked. He skulked with the squad, moved back in to delay them a little bit. Either they're going to prep fire on them or whatever. But anyway, he's got no infantry on the bottom, unfortunately. Early break. And the Russians are just ignoring this unit over here, which pretty much they should. And so he moves, and I think it advanced fires or bounding fires on that unit and pins him. So the Russians just to kind of ignore him. And then we've got the German 37 behind him. Rolls to hit or to kill. At this point, here's an instance of checking your ordnance notes for this particular weapon. It has heat ammunition with a heat availability of 6. So, but reading the notes, it's actually really interesting. It's got a special heat round, which is Steel Granate 41 or 41. It has a basic to hit number of 11. Each hex range decreases the number by 1. Its maximum range is 9 hexes, as denoted on the counter. So at the 2 hex range, it would have had a 11, 10, 9. 9 base to hit, plus 2 for moving would be 7. That would have hit with the ammunition on the to hit chart, and the heat round is extremely potent and has a 26 to kill number here. So read your vehicle infantry notes, read your vehicle notes, read your ordnance notes. And things like this can definitely make or break a game. And this one here, I mean, he happens to pop, if he were to pop that lead tank, those other tanks might take note, considering that AT gun still has the heat ammunition available to it with that dice roll of 5 on his to hit number. So very interesting development there. I didn't even check it until even after the game.
down here from the 75. Not really going to do anything against those. You guys got to get lucky. The 467 on the right-hand side does get annihilated, so that's kind of unfortunate. And then the crew, I'm not sure what happened with that. Oh, they're the trenches. So they threw the trenches up because they came in line of sight. So that's cool. And that is the whole breadth, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Gotcha. And again, I think he actually uses the trench to kind of go long, but because that helps a little bit. And the 8-1 still is kind of like out of the fight so far. Up in DD6. At least these guys over here on the right hand side, the squad and the crew. I think that's two infantry units back there in the back that probably aren't going to get off.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's going to be tough for them to do anything. Unfortunately, these guys just get annihilated. They have to surrender. That's another recurring thing. This seems to be like a death trap down here at the bottom.
Mm.
And yeah, seems like if you break early, you kind of just die. You know, I'm not sure. Like if you broke back here, if you set up units over here deeper, again because they're within range, and that's what the bad thing about it is the Russians don't have any firepower. So if you set up and try to defend the woods, the Russians don't care. First of all, they have to come forward anyway. So you being there is not going to stop them. But they'll get to it. Whoever survives is going to get that one shot on you. He's got 6 squads. You only have 3. You know, one of them's over here, one of them's there, one of them's here. It doesn't take much to destroy you with. I mean, 3 units can charge that one guy, and one of them is going to get into close combat.
Right.
Pretty much almost all the time. And so, like David was saying earlier, you know, if you have some sort of defense up here, use your 6 range. I mean, if he's moving here 6+1, you got 2 -1 leader. You got a -1 leader, -2 leader. So that's going to be a 6 even, you know, or cover the road here to make at least a -1 shot. If he stops the tank, then that's when you bring out the gun and you just blow him away at that point, you know, with a rear ass shot or something like that. He just happened to get unlucky over here. But I just don't think that. I mean, again, you can't go toe to toe with the Russians, and you know, a fire lane down this row here. He's got to take that fire lane. So it's kind of rough. And so he jumps on the trenches all at the same time. He rolls. It looks like his bog roll, so he goes through it like nothing. These guys spin around here. They continue. This unit over here can't actually move that direction. He has to either go into the woods or bypass. And I think we saw before that this is the non-bypassable hex. But anyway, he could have turned and just come back to EE2. Again, not a big deal. But yeah, you can't split up your platoon like that.
Right. Yeah. No.
And then they go like that. He's in motion, and then the guys just kind of get off. Yeah, the tank up here was blown up. This tank has got pretty much no armor, and for that, it's kind of rough. It's kind of rough to slow or stop the tanks. Where the hell is the demo charge? The demo charge must have been thrown or something. Yeah, I think that maybe this guy had a demo charge.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe threw it or something like that. But yeah. So pretty much the Germans have they have nothing left. So that's the end of the log file there. Again, I don't mind the setup up here because I think I liked it, but he came around the back and he never got to fire on anybody. I think he could have just he could have either stayed up here or just stay there and fire. Try to at least fire over here. Once he goes behind the hedge over here, then he's a non-factor, and the Russians can just ignore him and only deal with one guy. And so that might be the case. But the two units and a leader were tied down by some guys over here. So that I think that was a huge success. He killed one unit and he tied down 2 other units. So technically one squad held up half the Russian infantry. And if he got an immobilization or bog on one of the tanks, then he'd have to get all these units off. So even though it kind of looked like a complete rout for the Germans, as you've seen in all the other replays, it pretty much is a rout for the Russians. But
you know, if you delay units enough, and if you break one guy over here and bog a guy because he's got to take a bog check or immobilize him or something like that, then the Germans pretty much instantly win. I mean, so it's pretty tough. That this is a good that's a good technique. This guy stayed alive long enough to delay them, as it were, for them to get off the board. So that was kind of interesting in that aspect. But yeah, I think keeping in mind, I mean, the platoon movement is there, but keeping in mind that mostly all of these woods hexes are non-bypassable.
Sure. Yep.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what they are on the actual board for, but on this board, on this map, they are all non-bypassable, and so the Russian tanks can literally only go into a couple of hexes. And I'd love to see, you know, in this case, I don't think it really would have mattered if they would have blew that thing up, but again, just the routing itself, the 9-1. Well, the wounded leader couldn't make it here in the rout phase. He'd have to go somewhere else. He'd still be dead, so it's beside the point. But that just goes to show you that, you know, the routing, we had one routing earlier where there was a wounded leader here, and again, this was not his destination. None of these, he had no destination, so he could just route wherever he wanted to. And then we had some Russian tanks up in here that were just sitting there, but they were not in the covered arc down to W3X2, and the 628s, like there's a 628 here, he's out of range, so you could physically route there and just stay in the open, and he can't shoot you. Again, you're still gonna die, but at least you'll have some sort of, you know, maybe he doesn't kill you, maybe something else weird happens. You never know in this game. But,
right. Yeah.
But the routing was key in the, well, not really key, but just one of those things. Again, something that everyone can improve upon is just their routing techniques, because in lines of sight, the last game the tank was here and the unit didn't have to route, and when he routed here close to the enemy unit, where technically he would have lost his DM because he would have been out of line of sight to that unit, and so he would have lost his DM. Could he have rallied? I don't know. I don't know how fast the ride. I'd have to look at it again to see if the Russians were on top of him before he could rally. I'm not sure that he was, to be honest. Again, knowing the simple route rules that this guy's not in line of sight to that unit, so you don't have to route, might have actually saved that unit. All right, well, that's all we got for this week. Thanks a lot for watching. Download Monster Hill, play it, submit your VASL log and your AAR analysis with your defensive or offensive strategy game plan for that game in case you don't want to participate online. Give us what your game plan and your thoughts of your game plan are. We can look through the file to see exactly how the game went. So you don't really need to describe that, but if you want, that's great. So anyway, hopefully this will pick up, and we'll go into Monster Hill next month. And the date and time will be announced later on. And so we'll go with that. Thanks for watching. And we'll look to see you next month on Monster Gap. Thanks a lot.